Oh my god, I was at this show. And I got to go to his masterclass. It was at the Fitzgerald Theatre. Oh, yes, one. There's probably about 15 or 20 of us. He told us a lot of things. Among them was his obsession with watching beginner YouTube channels, which I just loved to hear, and we will go into that. But the one line that really stuck with me from the whole workshop was challenge intuition. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it really was the thread that tied his entire workshop together, and maybe his music. And yes, I do know you're looking at my new Julian Lage crew neck. It's nice. It's also 80 degrees in here right now. So this is truly for you. Fashion over beauty. Beauty over comfort? What's the line? I didn't record the whole masterclass or anything like that. I think that's a personal, kind of intimate thing. You should actually go to his masterclass. There's nothing like it. But I'd want to share three things that I think really help explain and encapsulate the way Julian Lage sees the guitar. I also want to share 3 books that he recommended. Believe it or not, books. He recommended books. But before all that, I want to talk about this little obsession he has, this personal hobby, slightly masochistic hobby about watching beginner YouTube channels, why he does it, and what he would change about them. I'm Kyle Orland. If you're new around here, well, I've taught thousands and thousands of lessons and learned that many songs or more. My infatuation with music, it seems to have no end, and I think that's why I hold Julian Lage in such high regard, because he really projects that. Now, one way you could read into this is that he told us he continuously watches beginner YouTube channels. Why would a guy who's that good watch beginner YouTube channels? And he explained it's kind of an obsession, like a hobby. He goes home and he just goes on YouTube, watches beginner channels. I can kind of relate. I know what it's like to get sucked into the YouTube wormhole. And all I can say is, for my end, the longer you spend on something, the more questions you have. And so sometimes going back to the very beginning will give you more sure footing at the current plateau you're at. So maybe that's why Julian Lage does it. But it's actually not. The shocking thing is Julian's not looking for answers, at all. He's just totally addicted to watching bad advice. As Robert Frost said, there are 3 great things: science, religion, and gossip. Eavesdropping on some good gossip, man, he cannot help himself. There's always some new guitar advice out there, and it's usually bad. So he explained to us what he thinks they're missing and what he might change, and I just really, really, really relate to what he said. Now, I really believe in this medium, because obviously here we are, but he talked a lot about learning from your relatives, even as a professional, checking out what your peers are doing and saying, hey, how do you do that? I come from maybe the last generation of pre-online learning, where I had an actual guitar teacher and all my friends, we took lessons from the same guy, and then we all got together and, maybe helped each other with stuff, wrote songs with it, maybe got jealous of somebody else because they could do something you couldn't do. This is a really important part and a natural part of learning an instrument, especially in your younger years, but definitely through your life as a musician. They're great motivators, and they're one that's truly tied to connection. Now, I think you can find some of that on the internet and YouTube, but I don't think there's anyone arguing out there that it's better, or at least the same thing, right? So I just thought it was awesome that he mentioned that. Then he opened the floor for questions. I didn't actually get to ask mine, because you're in a room full of guitar players who actually get to ask Julian Lage a question. So it didn't happen for me. But somebody pretty much asked my same question. He kind of stumbled through to actually get it out, but what I picked out was it's pretty much what I would have asked, and it was intuition versus intention. Now, how do you make those choices as a guitar player? And this isn't a new concept or anything, and I've been thinking about it a lot because I saw this Bill Evans clip somewhere that basically said, at a certain point, intuition isn't enough. Now, I think we all got to sit with that for a second, because what does intuition afford you? Breathing, pretty intuitive. Usually eating, drinking. These are things that are very intuitive for every human most of the time. And so intuition seems like a survival thing, right? A thing that just makes you comfortable, these intuitive comforts. And so as an artist or someone who's working towards mastery, letting go of what makes you comfortable and leaning in towards what makes you uncomfortable is quite a challenging and powerful experience. And Julian Lage explained that has been extremely challenging for him. And I forgot the teacher's name, but he really pushed Julian as a soloist to try a few different things. He had these 3 concepts The first one for soloing was soloing with time and changes. Now what that means is every song, has a meter, right? So let's say it's 4/4, and changes meaning like the chord progression. And so let's take just like, let's take like a 12-bar blues. Let's take a 12-bar blues. Let's do it in like C. We've got our C chord. We've got our F chord. Our C chord. Now you should feel this F chord coming, and if I were soloing, I could really outline the changes. Comes the 5. Hear that 4? It's like you can hear the song. And that's called soloing through the time and changes. The other thing he talked about was like motivic things. So that's like a motif. He did mention that's kind of a thing that really can actually mess you up. Maybe you get too into it or something like that. He didn't go into it, but like maybe you can use it as a crutch. But all that means is like I have like a melodic idea. So let's say the melodic idea is this. I've got like, right? Now when I go to the F chord, I can do the, very simple, right? So you have these ideas that can float through each chord progression. And the last one though was the most challenging for him, and it was free against form. So this would be if you have a 12-bar blues in the key of C, you play in a different key, you play in a different meter, and somehow you make it work, right? And eventually he said, like, just so you know, like at the end you kind of all try to come back together. So let's try that. Let's do this 12-bar in the key of C, but instead of playing in that key, I'll play like the ABCs in 3/4 in the key of B flat. So that's crazy. It would be really hard to do in like a band setting, but it's something he worked on. Another thing he told us he did that I thought was really fascinating, he solos in song form, and he'll do that for up to an hour. When's the last time you did anything for an hour? Now, maybe all this stuff alone could create a guitar player as great as Julian Lage, but he also offered us a few books to check out. Now, I got the Dork of the Workshop award by being the only one who knew who George Van Epps was. Now, this book is way above my pay grade, but there he is, man. There's old George. And then he gave us 2 more by the same guy. This is Mick Goodrick. One of them is called The Advancing Guitarist, and the other one is called The Almanac for Guitar Voicings. That one's out of print, but you can get it free online. I'll put a link in the description, and I haven't checked them out yet, but I'm definitely going to. If Julian Lage checked them out, I mean, everybody here should check those books out. But learning about his process is only half the battle. So if you want to check out how I try to break down his version of Freight Train, you gotta watch that next. Check it out. Oh, yeah, that's one.